thermodynamic chart drawn between two properties is called the state. And when there are no gradients of any properties, we call the system to be in equilibrium. And if there is no pressure gradients, it is in mechanical equilibrium. If there are no temperature gradients, it is in thermal equilibrium. If there are no concentration gradients, it is in chemical equilibrium. And if there are no change in the charge at different points, it is electrical equilibrium. Like that, we have various equilibriums. If a system is in equilibrium in all the aspects, that is, if there are no gradients of any property within the system, then we call it as thermodynamic equilibrium. Okay, then if, we talked about the process. If it goes from one state to another state, we call it the path going through that is called the path, and it is called the process. And we defined what is called as quasi-static process. If it goes through every instant, if it is at equilibrium, very near to equilibrium, and it is called as quasi-static or quasi-equilibrium process, so that the analysis will be simple and the calculations will be easier if it is quasi-static process. And we talked about two non-quasi-static processes. One is free expansion process and another is throttling process. And the quasi-static processes are, lot of processes are there, iso processes. If temperature is constant, it is isothermal process. If pressure is constant, isobaric process. If volume is constant, we call it as isochoric or isometric process. And if there is no heat transfer, and it is adiabatic process. Like that, we have discussed about various processes. Then we talked about the temperature. Temperature basically cannot be defined. It is only a relative term. One is hot or cold, like that is there. There is no specific definition for temperature, but we always compare the hotness of two substances. And so then we have measurement of temperature by fixing some reference points like ice point and steam point. So the ice point and steam point are defined in different systems like 0 and 100 in centigrade and 32 and 212 in Fahrenheit. And they are divided according to the number. So 0 and 100 can be divided into 100 divisions to get each degree centigrade. And Fahrenheit 32 to 212, 180 divisions to get 1 degree Fahrenheit. And it can be extrapolated upward and downward. And zeroth law, so whenever two bodies are in equilibrium with a third body, so those two bodies are in equilibrium. So that's what zeroth law says. And the complete science of thermometry has been developed based on the zeroth law of thermodynamics. And then we defined the pressure which is force per unit area. And we have seen barometer, manometer. Barometer measures the atmospheric pressure, and that's why even the units of pressure are called as bars. And we have seen 1 atmospheric pressure is equal to 101.325 kilopascals. And then coming to the manometer, manometer is used to find out the difference in pressures. So either difference between that pressure and the atmospheric pressure, or difference between two different points. And we use the formula of because if you go down, there will be increase of rho GH pressure, and if you go up, there will be decrease of rho GH pressure. So whatever be the liquid that is used in the manometer, that is the density, rho, density of the liquid that is used in the manometer, and H is the height difference, and G is the acceleration due to gravity. So you have to go through the problems that are given in the textbook and also in the exercise. So there will be some problems maybe asked in your test in the on Saturday 5 o'clock test. So this is the thing, and we also discussed about hydrostatic paradox. So we have taken 2 or 3 different shapes of jars, which has the same base diameter, and also we have taken a liquid into that having the same height. So theoretically speaking, actually all of them have to give the same force downwards, and it has to weight the same. But we know that they are of different weight. It is because of the pressures acting on the side walls. So that's what we have discussed in the last class. And this particular class, we introduced the concept of pure substance. Not introducing, actually, we already have discussed about pure substance, which is uniform and invariable composition. So what are the benefits of using or defining a pure substance? Also, we have discussed, because it has what is called a state postulate or two property rule. And the complete state of a pure substance can be defined by any two independent properties. Okay, so that's what, and we see the uh, properties, how we find out the properties of the pure substance, and we discuss about that. So we discuss the physics of phase change processes, and we illustrate PV, TV, PT property diagrams and PVT surface of pure substances, and demonstrate the procedures for determining thermodynamic properties of pure substances from tables of property data. Describe the hypothetical substance, ideal gas, and the ideal gas equation of state, and apply the ideal gas equation of state in the solution of typical problems. And for real gases, what is the compressibility factor, which accounts for the deviation of real gases from ideal gas behavior, and we present some of the best known equations of state. Okay, this is the objective of the present chapter. This is the third chapter from Cengel and Bowles, and second chapter from Borg-Naquet thermodynamics. Okay, any questions? We'll start otherwise. Okay, pure substance is a substance that has a fixed chemical composition throughout. Okay, so fixed means invariant, and throughout means uniform. And we have seen different examples for pure substances. So here some of the examples are given. Nitrogen, if you take, it is a pure substance, and water is a pure substance, steam is a pure substance, ice is a pure substance, and vapor and liquid together of water and steam together is a pure substance, and air also having different elements in the air, also it is considered as pure substance, because if you take air in a box, the composition of air at every point will be same. And also we have discussed that exhaust gases also are pure substance, because again the composition is same everywhere of the exhaust gases. And the air also, in liquid form it is pure substance, in gaseous form it's pure substance, but while changing of phase occurring, like gas and liquid of air, that is shown in the figure B, that is not pure substance. So you can see figure 3.2, a mixture of liquid and gaseous water is a pure substance, but a mixture of liquid and gaseous air is not a pure substance. Okay, why to learn properties and behavior of pure substances? So useful in design of equipments, ducts, in power producing and absorbing cycles. A pure substance is one that has homogeneous and invariable chemical composition. It may exist in more than one phase, but the chemical composition is the same in all phases. Examples is given, already we have discussed. And this also we have discussed. And phases of pure substance, we can see solid phase, liquid phase, and gaseous phase. So in solid phase, we have all the molecules relatively at fixed positions in a solid, and groups of molecules move about each other in the liquid phase, and molecules move about in random way in the gaseous phase. You can see all the three phases, and the molecules in a solid are in their position by the large spring-like intermolecular forces. Okay, there can be vibrations of the molecules. Suppose conduction heat transfer takes place. So a conduction heat transfer takes place by the vibrations of the molecules. That is in a solid. So we see different phase change processes of the pure substance. Suppose we take in the cylinder piston arrangement some liquid I take, okay, or water itself, and 1 atmosphere and 20 degrees centigrade. So at 20 degrees centigrade, at 1 atmosphere, 20 degrees centigrade is less than saturation temperature. So it is completely liquid only. So this substance is not about to vaporize. It takes some time. So such liquid is called as compressed liquid or subcooled liquid, because its temperature is less than the saturation temperature for vaporization. It is called as subcooled liquid, and also it's like compressed liquid. And so it is completely in liquid phase. And suppose now I start heating, gradually its temperature rise. And when the temperature reaches 100 degrees centigrade, which is the saturation temperature of the water, then the liquid that is about to vaporize, it is called as saturated liquid. It is saturated liquid. Now, if I heat it further, so it starts getting evaporated, and gradually some liquid gets reduced and vapor increase. and we have what is called as saturated liquid vapor mixture. The state at which the liquid and vapor phase exist in equilibrium. When a substance exists as part liquid and part of vapor at the saturation temperature, its quality X is defined as the ratio of the mass of vapor to the total mass. Okay, this is called as quality, the ratio of the mass of vapor to the total mass. So as I am increasing the temperature, so gradually vapor increases, so its quality increases. So vapor increase and liquid decrease gradually, that is its quality increases. So when everything is liquid, the quality is 0, and when it is completely vaporized, when it is completely vapor, and then the quality is 1. So the quality varies from 0 to 1 as I am heating. So it takes latent heat to get itself vaporized. The heat that is taken while it is in a single phase, that is, the liquid is heated from 20 degrees to degrees centigrade to 100 degrees centigrade, that heat is called as sensible heat. While change of phase occurring, the heat transfer is called as latent heat. Now I increase it further, the temperature, I heat it further, then it becomes completely saturated vapor. That is 1 atmosphere, 100 degrees centigrade, everything is vapor, it is saturated vapor. So at 1 atmospheric pressure, the temperature remains constant at 100 degrees centigrade until the last drop of liquid is vaporized. So during change of phase, the temperature is not changing, it is 100 degrees centigrade only. So that's why you can see pressure and temperature during change of phase are dependent on each other. They are dependent properties, but specific volume gradually change. So P and V are independent, T and V are independent, but T and T are dependent. And now I heat it further. So what happens? The temperature increases further and everything is in vapor state, and it is called a superheated vapor, a vapor that is not about to condense, right? It is quite above the saturation temperature. So as more heat is transferred, the temperature of the vapor starts to rise. So this is called superheated vapor. And if I draw it in on a TV diagram, so as if I take state 1, which is compressed liquid, and gradually I heat it, so the temperature rise, specific volume rise, and then it comes to saturated water phase, and I increase the heat it further, temperature remain constant, but specific volume increase, because I know that specific volume of water is very less, specific volume of vapor is very high. So gradually the specific volume increase, but pressure and temperature remain constant during the change of phase till it becomes completely saturated vapor at 4. And here saturated vapor, I heat it further, both temperature increase and the specific volume increase. Okay, so this is the way the thing takes place. It is at constant pressure at 1 atmosphere. And suppose I repeated the process at, okay, one more thing. So the dependence on saturated pressure and saturation temperature. So as pressure increase, the saturation temperature corresponding it increase. So this is the definition. The temperature at which water starts boiling depends on the pressure. Therefore, if the pressure is fixed, so the boiling temperature also is fixed. Water boils at 100 degrees centigrade at 1 atmospheric pressure. So we call them as saturation temperature and saturation pressure when it is saturated water or saturated steam. So the temperature at which a pure substance changes phase at a given pressure is called saturation temperature. The pressure at which a pure substance changes phase is called, at a given temperature, is called saturation pressure. So if you draw a curve, the dependence of saturation pressure and saturation temperature, it comes like this. And they are linearly related to each other, and they are directly proportional to each other. Not linearly related, it is directly proportional to each other. That is, one increase, the other increase, but not linear. Okay, it's non-linear. You can see it's a curve. Okay, the liquid vapor saturation curve of a pure substance. So these numerical values are for water. Water is for water substance. It is. If the substance is different, the curves will be different. And here the saturation pressure on water at various temperatures. So if the temperature, you can see, as the temperature increase, the saturation pressure increase. So they are directly related. And then I was talking about latent heat. Latent heat is the amount of energy absorbed or released during phase change process. Okay, latent heat of fusion, and this is also called as latent heat of melting. The amount of energy absorbed during melting, it is equivalent to the amount of energy released during freezing. Okay, when it is frozen, the energy is released. When it is melting, energy is taken by the substance. So latent heat of fusion or latent heat of melting. And again, there is a phase change from liquid to water, the liquid to vapor or vapor to liquid. So this is latent heat of vaporization or latent heat of condensation. So whether vaporization is taking place or condensation is taking place, but the quantity of heat is same. The magnitudes of the latent heats depend on the temperature or pressure at which the phase change occurs. Okay, these values they are important. Usually in the problems you may get, you may have to use latent heat of fusion and vaporization. At 1 atmospheric pressure, the latent heat of fusion of water is 334 kilojoule per kg, and latent heat of vaporization is 2257 kilojoules per kg. The atmospheric pressure and thus the boiling temperature of water decrease with elevation. So as you go up into the atmosphere, we know that pressure decrease. So as the pressure decrease, the saturation temperature or boiling temperature reduce. That's why it is easy to boil water on top of a hill. With less heat, it gets boiled. At low temperature, it gets boiled because pressure and temperature are related, and on the hilltop or the mountain top, the pressure is low, so its boiling temperature also is low. So at low temperature itself, it gets boiled. Any doubts or questions? Okay, if I do that experiment of heating the liquid, heating the solid, then to liquid, then to vapor at different pressures. So one line for one pressure, another line for another pressure. So at different pressures, I will get different lines. So this is the way I get different points. And these are all saturated liquid points, and these are saturated vapor points. And if I join all the saturated points, I will get a hill-type curve. And there is a point here. This is called as the critical point. So here I have liquid portion, this is liquid and vapor portion, and this is completely vapor portion. So this horizontal portion is a mixture of liquid and vapor. And this horizontal portion, which is the mixture of liquid and vapor, gradually the length of it gets reduced as I increase the pressure. At a certain pressure, there will not be any horizontal portion. That is what is called as critical point. That is, here where the change of liquid to vapor taking place, we cannot identify. And beyond this, everything looks like a single phase. You cannot distinguish between liquid phase and vapor phase above the critical point. So we'll go to it further as we go to the next slides. Okay, I'm joining all the left side points, saturated liquid points, and on the right side saturated vapor points. I get the line like this. So we get at different pressures how the curves will be. This is 0.1 megapascal, 1 megapascal, 10 megapascal, like that. And 22.09 megapascal is the critical pressure. Okay, so at 40 megapascal, you will not see any change of phase. Okay, I just it goes on taking heat, and we cannot know exactly whether it is liquid or vapor. So to understand whether it is compressed liquid or superheated vapor, what exactly it is, to understand that, what people do is, suppose at the critical point, I draw a horizontal line. If I draw a horizontal line, and below the horizontal line, it is compressed liquid, and above the horizontal line through N, it is called as superheated vapor. Below the horizontal line drawn through N is called compressed liquid. Above the horizontal line, above N, going through N, is called as superheated vapor. You cannot distinguish between saturated or compressed liquid or superheated vapor beyond critical point pressures or beyond critical pressures. Okay, that's what it's an important point to be noted down. Later we will see some more interesting points. Okay, you can, so that the diagram is between temperature and volume, and the same thing can be done between PV diagram also, pressure and volume diagrams. So pressure and volume, I will get the constant temperature lines like this. And this is T1 constant, this is T2 constant, but greater than T1. As the temperature increase, this line goes up. Again, at critical point, I will have the critical temperature and critical pressure. So again, the left side is compressed liquid region, and in between it is saturated liquid vapor region, and on the right side we have superheated vapor region. And there is some interesting thing, and water has some interesting properties. And if you see any vapor will have large volume, specific volume, and as it is condensed, so when it becomes water, its specific volume gets reduced. That is very clear, right? It occupies less space when vapor is cooled to liquid. And I cool the liquid, and as it is getting frozen or liquid becoming solid, what happens to its specific volume? During freezing, what happens to when liquid is becoming solid? Okay, what happens to the specific volume? As liquid is cooled to become solid, what happens to its specific volume?
Increase.
Liquid, solid will have more volume. It is for only water. Okay, that's right. 4 degrees you are telling. Okay, so any other substance in the nature, when you are freezing it, liquid to ice, actually it becomes more compact and its volume decrease. When vapor to liquid, its volume decrease, and liquid to solid, its volume further decrease. In general, for any substance except for water, water has peculiar characteristic. It expands on freezing. So that is one of the peculiar characteristics. That's why when you keep water in a glass bottle in a freezer, you should not fill it completely. I have to leave some space, because during freezing, the water becomes ice and it gets expanded. If there is no sufficient space, the glass breaks. So this particular one has that particular interesting characteristic. Water is different to all other substances existing in the nature. So this you can see it here. Suppose I take vapor here and I cool it here, and its specific volume gradually decrease, and it is saturated vapor. Now I cool it further. So at constant temperature, condensation is taking place, and gradually its volume, specific volume, very much decrease, and now it is saturated water, and water is cooled down, and so its temperature decrease and the specific volume decrease. And here, if I cool it further, and it starts getting frozen. So what happens? The temperature constant, but specific volume increase, right? This is what is called as expansion during freezing. And if I cool it further, it goes down like this. Its volume further decrease. And this is a peculiar property only for water. Okay, so this you have to remember. And water has another peculiar property that I can tell it later, I think. Okay, anyhow, this is a PT diagram, pressure temperature diagram. In the pressure temperature diagram, you see only 3 lines like a tree. Okay, like the 3 branches, and like it is the starting of the tree, and then we have 2 branches like that. Okay, so it looks like this PT diagram. And so if I draw horizontal lines, means its temperature increasing at constant pressure, that is heating under constant pressure. So if I take initial condition when it is completely solid at this particular pressure, then it is crossing a line. Whenever these are saturation lines, this is called fusion line, this is called vaporization line, this is called sublimation line. Whenever a line crosses a saturation line, phase change will be taking place. Okay, so A is completely solid and it is getting heated. When it is crossing, the solid becomes completely vapor. So the solid phase to vapor phase, and sublimation is taking place. So A to B. And suppose I cool it from B to A, again it starts cooling the vapor. Suddenly the vapor starts getting solidified. Can anybody tell me what is the opposite to sublimation? Vapor to solid phase, right? Opposite to sublimation. Can anybody tell me what is the process called?
Solid.
No. So liquid to solid is solidification. Vapor to solid? Can anybody tell me? That is called deposition. Deposition. Opposite to sublimation, it's called, right, deposition. Very good. Okay. So have you checked the Google or are you told like that? Okay, right, deposition. Right, opposite to sublimation is deposition, vapor to solid. Okay, then if I take at a particular point E here, if I start heating it at constant pressure and the solid gets heated up, and while it crossing the fusion line, melting takes place, right? Because solid to liquid is melting and liquid to solid this side is freezing. Okay, so this is called fusion line or melting line. This is called sublimation line or deposition line. Okay, so if it is going from E towards F, here melting takes place, and if it is going this way, there will be freezing taking place. Okay, so here this complete solid becomes liquid just while crossing this line. And so I get the vapor. Once it crosses this, it is vapor. And see, the vapor gets heated. Sorry, it is liquid. Okay, it is completely liquid. Liquid gets heated and gradually it becomes to the saturation temperature. Now, when it crosses this, liquid to vapor takes place or evaporation takes place. So when it is going from left to right, it is evaporation. When it is coming from right to left, it is condensation. So it is vaporization line or condensation line. Okay, now if I take the solid at state C, okay, so it gradually gets heated up, and now when it comes to this point, so this fusion line and vaporization line, they are intersecting, all the three lines are intersecting here. This is called triple point. Across each saturation line, two phases are in equilibrium. Across sublimation line, solid vapor phases are in equilibrium. Across fusion line, solid and liquid phases are in equilibrium. And across evaporation line or condensation line, liquid vapor phases are in equilibrium. So if I take the triple point, at the triple point, all the three phases are in equilibrium. So that is the important characteristic of triple point, where all the three phases are in equilibrium. So when solid is getting heated from this point, which goes through triple point, so here what happens? Part of it becomes liquid and part of it becomes vapor. Okay, so something here, gradually the solid gets converted to liquid, a part of it, and converted to vapor, a part of it. And once it crosses and comes out of it, everything is vapor only. Okay, so this is what happens. Suppose I take a line above the critical point, I take some point G, and here I cannot exactly say whether it is liquid or vapor, and its state will not change because it is not crossing any saturation curve, right? Unless it crosses a saturation curve, there will not be any phase change you can observe. Okay, so that's important. Then coming to the next thing, okay, it is some history. Ice was made by evacuating the airspace in a water tank. Okay, so in a water tank, there is a vacuum pump is connected, and the air and the vapors over that are sucked away, and automatically it becomes ice because the pressure gets reduced, and so the saturation temperature gets reduced, and automatically it gets frozen. So initially in 1775, people used to make ice using this particular evacuating method of airspace in a water tank. Okay, this is again the same thing. Okay, below critical pressure, the phase change takes place like this, and at the critical point, it takes place like this, and above the critical pressure, it goes like this. So critical point, the point at which the saturated liquid and saturated vapor states are identical and they are coexisting. At pressure above the critical pressure, there is otherwise no distinct process exists. So no phase change process takes place. So here above the critical pressure, it resembles a vapor, but we can never tell when the change has occurred. The specific volume of the substance continuously increases, and all times there is only one phase present. So if I take here, if I go on heating, I see only single phase and its specific volume increases, right? But you cannot say in which phase it is. So specific volume continuously increases, and all times there is only one phase present. So it resembles a vapor, but we can never tell when the change has occurred. Above the critical state, there is no line that separates the compression liquid region and superheated vapor region. It is customary to refer the substance as superheated vapor at temperatures above the critical temperature and compressed liquid at temperatures below the critical temperature. That's what we have discussed. And some critical points for various substances are given here: critical temperature, pressure, and critical volume. Okay, again, I have already discussed. This is compressible liquid region, saturated liquid vapor region, superheated vapor region, saturated liquid line, saturated vapor line, and critical point. And a constant pressure line goes like this. And similarly for PV diagram, the same things will be there. Only thing is constant temperature line will be in this way. And here there are, as I told, there are two types of substances: water and other than waters. That is substance which contracts on freezing and substance which expands on freezing. Okay, so this is a PV diagram for substance that contracts on freezing, that is other than water, and PV diagram of a substance that expands on freezing, such as water. You can see here there is a little bit of difference, but here you cannot make out much. If you see it is in 3D diagram, then we can see it in a better way. Okay, we will see later. So at triple point, all the solid, liquid, and vapor are in equilibrium, and for water, the triple point is 0.01 degree centigrade, and triple point pressure is 0.6117 kilopascal. So the triple point pressure and temperature, these are, because it's a particular point for every substance, these are tabulated and given in the data books. The triple point pressure and triple point temperature, where all the three phases exist in equilibrium. And sublimation we already discussed. Okay, these are the phase diagrams, that is PT diagram. On a PT diagram, we have seen that the saturation lines. So there are sometimes this melting line may be this way or this way, right? So for all the other substances other than water, the melting line will be positive slope. Melting line is a positive slope characteristic. And for water, which expand on freezing, right, the melting line is having negative slope characteristic. This is the second important characteristic of water. If you see here, for all other substances, all the saturation lines are having positive slope characteristic. As pressure increase, saturation temperature increase. As pressure increase, saturation temperature increase, like that. But for water, during melting, as pressure increase, saturation temperature decrease. They are inversely related. It is having negative slope characteristic. So this is a particular important characteristic. These are the two things which in which water is different in the nature with other substances. One is the melting line of the water have negative characteristic, negative slope characteristic, other than all other substances. All other substances has positive slope characteristic. The other one is it expands on freezing, and all the other substances, they contract on freezing. And if you see the 3D diagrams of this, you can see here like this. These are the 3D diagrams. All PVT, if I want to see, I have to see for a particular direction. If I see in this direction, suppose I see in this direction, so V becomes a single point here. This it becomes single point. I see only in this view, I see PT diagram. If I see this way, I will see PV diagram, and temperature becomes a single point. Okay, so like that, based on the direction you see, you will get PT. If I see from the top, I will get PV diagram. temperature in this way, specific volume in this way, and pressure becomes a single point here. Okay, so this is for all other substances, and this is for water. When you are coming from liquid to solid, from the liquid to solid, this is specific volume. So here it comes like this, it goes like this, and comes like this. That is, here the specific volume decrease as it going from liquid to solid. But for water, when it is going like this, so this goes inside like this, specific volume. Okay, so liquid to solid. So it expands. Okay, so this is it is coming in this way. Okay, from liquid to solid, if it has to come, the volume increase, that is expands on freezing. Just observe it clearly, you can understand the difference between water and other substances. Okay, these questions I have given, which we have already discussed. Why a glass bottle full of water breaks while freezing? Because water expands on freezing. And the other one, can any liquid be evaporated any number of times? Okay, there is one more. Okay, how skiing is possible on ice? This is another interesting thing because of the property of the negative slope characteristic, right? So this is because of the negative slope characteristic. What happens is, as pressure increase, the saturation temperature decrease. Okay, so temperature, the corresponding to a particular pressure, decreases. As pressure increase, the saturation temperature decrease. So what happens is, when a person stands on skis on ice, it exerts pressure on the ice surface. When pressure is increased, so the saturation temperature decreases, and so the layer of ice gets melted under the ski. So when it gets melted, the friction gets reduced, and there will be a film of water form between the skis and the ice, and it just slides over the ice. So that is an interesting thing. So because that special characteristic of water made the people to play skiing in on ice. Is that clear? So because of that, the ice skiing is possible, and why a glass bottle full of water breaks while freezing. And another interesting thing, can any liquid be evaporated any number of times without ever condensing it? I will evaporate a liquid any number of times without ever condensing it. I don't condense it, again I will evaporate it. And again I don't condense it, again I will evaporate it. I evaporate number of times. How is it possible? So this is because of the interesting characteristic of critical point. I will just explain how it is. Okay, suppose here is the critical point. I draw, suppose, okay, I draw a rectangle here over the critical point. Okay, if I draw a rectangle here, and if I start at this point, and I go on heating it at constant pressure. So what happens? It gradually goes this way, and here it is liquid, and when you're crossing it, there will be bubbling and evaporation, you can see, and it completely become vapor, and I heat it further till this point. So it is completely vapor. I can see the evaporation clearly, the bubbling and evaporation. So completely superheated vapor came here, and now at this point I go up at constant temperature, I increase the pressure. At constant temperature, I increase the pressure, isobaric process. So I go up to this point. I don't see any phase change because it is not crossing any saturation line. And at this point, I start cooling it at constant pressure. It comes to this point. Again, I don't see any phase change. I cooled it at constant pressure. Then I come down to the starting point. So what happens? Again, there is no phase change, but pressure is decreased at a constant temperature. I completed a cycle where there is an evaporation taking place. Now I repeat the cycle, and again I get this evaporation here without any phase change in all the other three processes. Again it gets evaporated when it's going. So in every cycle I can evaporate it, but I am not condensing it anywhere. There is no phase change in all the other three processes. So this is a very particular interesting thing. Just think about it. Okay. So these are the three interesting points I wanted to tell you. Okay, no book will write such things. Okay. Okay, this is triple point data for all the different substances, and like this. Okay, this also everything self-explanatory. I have shown those horizontal lines, those that is explained here. Okay. Yeah, these horizontal lines A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, those things are explained there in that particular slide. This one. Okay, these properties, I have to have number of graphs available, and sometimes that is the complete properties of steam and water, compressed liquid, everything. I can have these graphs, and if you take a particular point on the graph, I can find out any two properties, and from those two properties, I can get the other properties. But always you cannot have the graphs, and reading from the graphs is difficult to get the right value of the property. So for that purpose, all the values are tabulated. And for steam, we have steam tables available. And for different refrigerants also, while we solve the problems of refrigeration, I can use R22, R12, or there are so many refrigerants are there. If I want to find out the properties, there are property tables are available, because these are not perfect gases. Okay, the steam is water or steam. These are not perfect gas substances, right? So the perfect gas relations cannot be used for this. And refrigerants also, we cannot use the perfect gas relations. So whenever I cannot use the perfect gas relations, I have to use thermodynamic tables of that particular substance. So these are called property tables. Property tables are available on your all thermodynamics books. If you just go to the end of it, there are so many tables are available. So for steam properties, we have called steam tables, and for refrigerants, we have refrigeration substance tables. Okay, they are available. So for most substances, the relationships among thermodynamic properties are too complex to be expressed in simple equations. Therefore, properties are frequently presented in the form of tables. Some thermodynamic properties can be measured easily, but others cannot be, and are calculated by using relations between them and measurable properties. The results of these measurements and calculations are presented in tables in a convenient format. Okay, I will stop here. I will continue in the next class. We will see how these steam tables are prepared, and how the tables can be used to calculate. And when there is completely liquid or completely vapor, it is okay. If it is a mixture of water and vapor, and how to calculate the properties of the particular substance. So there are some intricacies which we will discuss in the next class. So you go through the third chapter of Cengel and Bowles, or second chapter of Bournaque. Both will have the same things, but in Pekenog it is somewhat later chapter. The pure substance chapter is somewhat later. Any doubts? Liquid air is a pure substance, gaseous air is a pure substance, but air during liquefaction, it is not pure substance. If it is completely liquefied, no problem. Only liquid air is there. Everywhere the composition will be same. But during the liquefaction, only some of the oxygen may be condensed and some of the nitrogen may be condensed. That's why it's not. Yeah, liquid air. No. Liquid vapor. It's not like liquid. It can be liquid or vapor, right? So liquid and vapor together. Suppose water and steam together is a pure substance. There is no doubt about it. But liquid air and vapor air is not a pure substance, because the composition, I don't know liquid air how much nitrogen is condensed or how much oxygen is condensed. So I cannot say that the composition may be different. But when steam is condensed to water, the composition is H2O only anywhere. So water in liquid form or in steam form or in combination mixture form also it is a pure substance. The only non-pure substance that we may come across is air while liquefying. Anything else? Let's go to the So we discussed about pure substance, phases of pure substance, phase change process of pure substance, property diagrams of phase change processes. Like these four things we discuss in the next class. Property tables, ideal gas equation of state, compressibility factor, and other equations of state we discuss in the next class. Okay, here we'll see some personalities. And we see about one person. He is the son of a school teacher in a remote village in rural Gujarat. After working in Dubai for some time, he later returned to India, where he founded and his corporation with a meager capital of just 15,000 rupees. He started a corporation. He set up the business in partnership with Champaklal Damani, from whom he split in 1965. He started his first textile mill at Naroda, near Ahmedabad, and launched the brand Vimal. He later diversified into petrochemicals and sectors like telecommunications, information technology, energy, power, retail, textiles, capital markets, and logistics. He rose from humble beginnings to create India's largest industrial empire, and in the process became one of the world's richest men. He wrote India's corporate history, for which he was featured among the select Forbes billionaires list. He also figured in the Sunday Times list of top 50 businessmen in Asia. So he is none other than the great Dhirubhai Ambani. So he is an inspirational character, and so we need not. Many people say, "I am a poor fellow. How can I be? I don't have opportunities. I don't have support and all." So there is nothing needed. If you see the great people's biographies, most of them are from rags to riches. Okay, another person born into a farmer family from North Gujarat. He finished his BSc in chemistry at age 21 and worked as a lab technician, first in the New Cotton Mills Ahmedabad of the Lalbhai Group, and then at the Geology and Mining Department of the state government. In 1969, he started selling detergent powder manufactured and packaged in his backyard. This was an offer of his business, a one-man company. He would cycle through the neighborhood selling handmade detergent packets door to door at a price of 3 rupees per kg, one-third the price of leading detergents. It was an instant success. He branded his detergent group Nirma after the name of his daughter, and he is the great Karsanbhai Patel. So there are great personalities like this who came with nothing in hand much and very poor families and became billionaires and came into Forbes magazine as one of the top billionaires. Okay, thank you very much. Anything else? I will send the PPT of whatever is covered today with your mail. Okay, share with me any problems that you face, any difficulties in understanding, and about the speed or my accent or anything. If there is any difficulty